Hello, my name is Bob, and I'm going to be walking you through VR Quest, a virtual reality creation software, and I will also be showing you some tips and tricks I've learned along the way. Here's your main menu. I use this for opening, closing, and also saving my levels. You can also see editor shortcuts, which are here. I'll use some of these as I'm talking to you. You can also read the manual, and there are some built-in tutorials to help get you started. This runs in several modes: shape mode, paint mode, paint grass mode, entity mode, waypoint editing mode, character creator, structure editor. This is for testing your level with a Windows mixed reality headset, and inviting somebody else to join you in social VR mode. This is your entities panel. This is your main editor window, and this is your properties panel, which will change dynamically based on the settings here and in entities. The circle in the middle can change size by pushing the minus and the plus keys. If you push the F key, it will change your angle. So now you're looking at it from a side view, and you can go back to G, which gives you a top view. And since I am in the paint texture mode, I'm just going to paint a texture here, and I'm going to go up and down. And this is really nice if you are trying to do straight lines. I'm just using the arrow keys, and because this is a top-down view, it will give you nice straight lines for painting roadways and things like that. We're going to go to entities. You have characters. These are all pre-built. You can also make your own characters, and I'll show you how. Buildings. From many different eras, and lots of objects. You also have something called markers. Most importantly are a player start, which we'll go ahead and place in here. If I push the R key, I can rotate the marker around to where I want to start. Let's say I want to start looking in that direction. We'll go to entities again, and we can put up an ambient zone so that when we start, there will be an audio file that will play when we walk forward. If I click this, I can click on this submenu, Properties. Now this brings up my Properties panel over here, and I can choose a sound file to play that is going to start playing when I step on this marker. So I'm just choosing when near C, click open, and when we test this level, it should start playing an audio file when we walk forward. Let's go ahead and see what that sounds like. So here we are in our virtual world. There's the cross we drew. And I'm going to step forward, and I should trigger the audio event. And there we are. To get out of the test mode, I push the escape key, and then it brings me back to my editor window. So that's how you can add this is an ambience file. This particular zone will play an audio in a loop, and I use it for background music, constant sound effects like a rain or storm or ambience for the area that I'm in, or even if I have certain sound effects like a crowd yelling, I might run it in an ambience zone. Otherwise, I would run it with an audio zone. Now, an audio zone plays the sound file one time, and it's useful as a trigger when you cross an area and you want an audio file to play. The image zone brings up a still picture, an image file, and displays it in the heads-up display. Text zone brings up text that you type in, and Video Zone plays a video file. These are also lights that you can choose. I'll go ahead and place a yellow light. So if I use the position controls and I right click, I can change look, and I can see the effects this light has on my surrounding area. One tip that you'll need to get good at is using the right mouse button and your WASD or your arrow keys. I'm left-handed, so I'm using the arrow keys. You would, if you're right-handed, more than likely you'll use the WASD keys. But being able to fly around is incredibly valuable, and it's probably the one main technique you'll use in the majority of creating levels. It allows you to get in very close, very quickly to an object and adjust them and move them around as you need to. So we're going back to the Entities panel, and I'm going to get out of the Markers, which is under this tab, go over to Entities. Let's pick a building, and you can see there are quite a number of buildings here. We can put the Roman Colosseum in here. Let's set it right there. Now you'll notice that when I roll over this, you'll see that the Roman Colosseum is red outline. That means it's in static mode. In other words, when the game engine starts, this will be considered a permanent structure and cannot be moved. On the Properties menu, if you have this static mode turned to no, then this will be green, and that means that this building could be moved live once the game engine starts. The only thing is that when you have a bunch of non-static objects in a scene, it tends to take up more computer cycles and will slow your game down. So it's best, if the object doesn't need to move, that you leave it in or put it in static mode. Yes. And by the way, this is where your Properties panel is. It's got the name of your object, the different scripts and behaviors that are assigned to it. You can change the pre-built scripts by clicking this down arrow, and these are all available for buildings and objects. They all do something different. Door would be to open and close doors. Sound would allow sound to fade in and out. Invisible means the object will not be seen when it's in the world, but it will still be there. This is useful if you're trying to block somebody from going a particular way. Move away moves the object away from the person. This brings it closer. Pick up simple is if you need to pick up the object. This only works on smaller objects like barrels and boxes and things. And then spin will make an object spin around in circles. You also have some other things on here like physics, some sound files and different things, and these will change based on the Lua or script that you are assigning to this object, this entity. Now, let's take a look inside the building. We're going to fly in. We're inside, which is pretty cool. These are all pre-built and ready to go in your game as soon as you put them into your world. Let's add an object. We'll scroll down until we find there's a bench. You can see it's in red, so it'll be permanent and not move. Push the R key to rotate it. So now we have a bench outside our building. Let's take a look at what this looks like in test level mode. Pretty cool. I'm using my mouse to look around and my WASD or arrow keys to navigate and walk. Push escape. And now we're back to our main editor window. So this is entity mode that we're in right now. We were in paint texture mode. Now we're in entity mode. So it allows us to place entities. If we want to come back and move an entity, all we have to do is click on it and we can slide it in one of the three axes. If it's above the ground and you want to get it on the ground, you can push the enter key and it will drop to the surface. These squares right here will allow you to move in two axes at once. You can also rotate. And you can scale. Make the building really tiny or really large. I can also do that with any entity in here. All of the entities in all the buildings are scaled to approximately human height, which is around 6 feet tall. So you shouldn't have to scale something just by dropping it in. It should be about the right size no matter what you do. You can tell our bench is really big now. But you can change all of these things very easily. I recommend you save your levels often. And one of the techniques I use is I'll name something and then I will add a number to it like name 1, and then I'll save another version, name 2, name 3, every time I make a major change. In that way, if something just doesn't work or I lose something, I can go back to a previous version and I haven't lost a lot of progress. Let's go over to our shape mode. We will create some shapes in this quadrant here. So we've got our circle. These are the different textures if we were in the paint texture mode, but right now we are in shape mode, which will allow us to raise terrain or lower terrain. So I'm going to raise it. And just by holding down the key and staying in one place, we can create mountains or berms as we need to. Now this tends to produce sometimes some ragged edges, and you can use this blend mode to blend the mountains with the surrounding levels. In this case would be the flat area, and it gives it a nice, smoothed, eroded, natural look to your mountains. There's also this level mode, which I like. It will allow you to take a particular height, let's say right here, and then you can paint and draw that height everywhere. This is very useful if you're trying to do a large amount of work in an area that needs a lot of coverage. And again, this tends to be very sharp edges, so you can bring this in and smooth off these edges, producing very nice, natural looking hillsides. If you want to ramp, this produces a nice descending angle from one height to another. So we're in ramp mode. Now I will click up here on top and then drag without letting go of the mouse and then let go, and it creates a ramp of dirt. so that you can create nice, smooth hillsides with ways of getting from one level to another. This usually creates a lot of artifacts, these edges. Again, using blend mode, we can go in and smooth these right out and have a nice smooth hillside that we can explore. And it looks fairly natural. Now, if we're back here in shape mode, I can also dig a hole, and you'll see water below. So if I hold the shift key and click, now we're creating the opposite direction, and we can basically create a creek or a river. And again, if we need to draw a whole bunch of areas fast, we can go to level mode and start inside the creek. Now it'll allow us to draw very quickly large areas. Let's take a look and see what this looks like. Remember, our sound effect is right ahead of us, and that yellow light that's really blindingly bright is right above the ground. That's why it looks like that. We're going to go over here and explore. This is the mountain range we created. If you hold the shift key down, it allows you to run, and if you push the space bar, it allows you to jump. So there's our mountain that we created. There's the ramp we made. And you can see that something that looks like a minor change on the editor actually ends up being a fairly large change up here. Here's our water. Very cool looking. We can also change the look of our water and other features by pushing a tab key. This brings up a couple of new controls. Right now it's giving you your metrics, your frames per second. You can also change all these wonderful settings. So in the case of water, you can click this, change the height of the water. So from any water all the way up to making it right below the surface of the lake. Change the color. We can change the wave intensity, transparency, and the reflection. We can change a bunch of other features on here. The water also changes when you go underwater. It'll look different than when you're above. You can also change your sky. You can make it dark. Or we can change it to a nice golden sunset. We can add weather, like rain, to heavy snow. You can also change several lighting functions. Over here, the biggest one is ambience level, and also surface level. This is the amount of light that hits the surface from our virtual sun. You can add some post effects. You don't change very many of these very often, or the camera settings. I do change this. I'm going to show you how to add vegetation next. We'll be using these to change some of those. The shaders are always for the quality. If your computer is running a little slow, you can change these down to a lower setting. It should run the VR World better. So I'm going to turn off camera settings. Post effects is my leave the world settings. We've already adjusted our water. I'm going to turn off our metrics. I'm not really shutting it off, just kind of moving them out of the way. And we will be focusing on these items here. These are kind of the overall settings for water, shadows, and whatnot. The defaults are usually pretty good, so we can turn that off too. So we will concentrate on these items here when we come back. So moving on, let's go to the vegetation painting, or painting grass. When I draw on this, you'll see it just produces a light gray. It doesn't have any detail. But this is where our virtual grass will grow. And when I unclick this, you'll see that it will show what this procedural vegetation looks like. You can change that by turning this on and off. Now if we go back to our test level, I'm going to walk around our noisy ambient zone. You can see that this vegetation is randomly generated within the areas that I drew that gray, those gray lines. Now we can change the style of vegetation, which is pretty cool. Go back to our metrics panel by pushing the tab key. We can change the vegetation type here. We're going to turn off the snow first. Right now the default is Weedy 1. We can change it to grass. Different kinds of grass. Let's go up here to weedy something else. We can also change the terrain type. Which is the textures underneath. We can change the vegetation quantity. Now there's a lot more. Change the width of the vegetation individually and change the height. So now we have basically a vegetation forest here. So let's put this to a different kind of weedy. There we go. And if we want, we can walk through these cool looking plants. And it's a quick way to get a lot of plants into a scene. The only drawback is that whatever you select is going to be true for all of the areas that you put down that particular kind of vegetation. So unlike the entities where you can select individual things, this selects them universally for all of the painted on procedural plants. So let's add a character. Add Middle Ages female. Let's get down close so we can see her. We're going to rotate her around. Now she's facing the camera. We'll click. And there she is. If we click her once, we can bring up the Properties panel. And right now she is assigned Follow Waypoint. But there aren't any waypoints yet, so she's not going to do much. And then we'll change some other features in here in a second. But let's give her something to follow. So we'll create, draw a waypoint. I'm going to click in front of her and then drag and hold the mouse down while we draw a line. And this will become her path. Now let's test this. And there she goes. And she is walking along the path that we drew. automatically. And as she goes by, she'll look at you. Now she reached the end of the path and did a spin around. You can move the waypoints around and you'll get different results when they reach the end of one of those nodes. There is also a setting for one way on a path if you want the character or the entity just to walk one direction. Now with this setting, the character will walk to the closest one of these lines, but you can see I have a gap here and here. You can bring that over and try to get it lined up with that one. And to do that, we're going to use the edit waypoint. Click it and just drag it right over. Hopefully now, once she hits it, she'll just continue walking in a circle. You can also erase waypoints by clicking here, and then it just jumps straight to the next one. One of the other functions we can do is give the character a voice. We'll change the follow the waypoint to stand and speak. You can use the built-in speech editor. So if I say, hello, welcome world. So we'll change this from Microsoft David to Microsoft Zero and hit play.
Hello, welcome world.
My name is Zero. Welcome to VR Quest. You have to give it a sec for it to calculate the lip sync.
Hello, welcome world. My name is Zira. Welcome to VR Quest.
So now we've got her voice. Let's try it in the virtual reality world. She should start talking when she is within this range and using this computer voice.
Hello, welcome world. My name is Zira. Welcome to VR Quest.
So that's pretty cool. You can also record an audio file directly for her. Just push the record button. Hello, my name is Zero. Welcome to VR Quest. We hope you enjoy walking around this amazing landscape. Push stop recording. We're going to let it generate the lip sync file. You'll see it turns yellow, then red when it's done. Right there's Zero.
Hello, my name is Zero. Welcome to VR Quest. We hope you enjoy walking around this amazing landscape.
Okay, so Zero probably doesn't sound very good with a male voice. And I want to show you a couple of more things about entities before we wrap up. We'll go to Objects, and we can put a barrel on our field. And let's find a candle. There's a nice candle. And we will put the candle on top of it and drag it down until it sits on top of our barrel. Now I'm going to show you something called Flat Effects. It's under Objects. To find it, the easiest way is to push the down arrow. You can search for things very quickly with this. I go to Objects, Flat Effects. And we have all kinds of fun smoke and things. And these use something called follow the camera a lot of times, where this is a flat animation and it will stay glued to the angle of the camera. And I'll show you what I mean. So here's a flame animated, a little bit large, so we'll need to scale that down. And then position this. Bring it up. We'll scale it down a little more. You can see how right now it is a little bit off center. Now you'll notice that the flame always stays facing our camera. And it looks like I could spend a little more time centering it up, but I think you get the idea. We're going to add another entity. Let's put a cylinder, something out of a sci-fi movie. This time we're going to change the properties, add a different Lua script, and we want this one to be hover. So this object will hover when we come back in. Let's add another entity, a cardboard box. We'll set it on the ground. It's green, so that means we can move it because we're going to assign pickup simple to it. You can adjust the settings here, but we're going to use the defaults. Now let's see what this looks like. So here we have our object hovering and our box, which we can now pick up, carry it around, and drop by clicking the mouse. Just remember, make sure the object, if it's supposed to hover, does not have static mode on. If it still doesn't hover, make sure it is always active or check your physics is active. But these are more advanced. It should work as long as this is not static. Now let's build some trees. We'll go to Objects, Trees, and let's grab tree 11. This is an animated tree. If you click off of it, it starts animating. Now let's say we want to build a whole forest of these trees. We have another option in here we can do. It's called Extract. So we're going to click it, click Extract. Now it is attached to my cursor, and I can just place it anywhere else I want it. But one of the cool things I can do with it, if I go to Extract again, hold down the Shift key, click that, now I can make a copy. Now if I just keep placing this as copies, it's going to get a little boring because they all face the exact same direction and they all look like each other. So let's get rid of these. I'm pushing delete, 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 delete. We're going to extract this. And now I'm going to hold the Shift key again, and I'm going to push R, which rotates. So each time I press the key, I get a little bit different variation, and I get a much more natural look to my forest. And now I have a forest of trees. A little more variation in the height would be good, but there you go. Looks pretty good. That will conclude our tips and the basic introduction to VR Quest. Thank you for watching.